The first polling numbers are out. We're going to dig into them tonight.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
Easy for you to say. We're going to dig into them tonight. They only give me one take on this broadcast. Great to have you in. Thanks very much for tuning in to the show. Joe Fleming is here, the lead pollster in Rhode Island. Fleming Associates is his company. The Channel 12 Roger Williams University poll was done last week, and Joe is the man behind the numbers. And the great thing about Joe is that he comes out in front of the numbers and explains the numbers and makes us understand the numbers, and is always offered, I think, some real discipline in terms of the numbers, because a guy who works the numbers as well as he does and understands both the information that you're getting, but the limits of the information that you're getting from the numbers is important. So Joe's old hat at this and all of that. But, you know, obviously we start the broadcast with heavy hearts, and we're taping on Wednesday. Usually we tape on Thursday. And if it was Thursday, we probably would have more information about the shooting in Texas. But even as, you know, almost 1 o'clock on Wednesday afternoons, we were putting this together, there were still little ones fighting for their lives, and a couple of adults too. We learned that this 18-year-old gunman also reportedly took his grandmother's life prior to his visit to the school. We'll have more information on this as we go, obviously on the radio, weekdays 3 till 6. Next week we have the new Colonel of the State Police, talked about security issues, and I'm sure we'll weave some of that conversation in. But yeah, you know, at Jump Street, I just don't know what to say. And you know, Joe and I were talking about Matt. Why don't we just cut to Joe? And we just you're a former educator.
Yes.
This is not Joe the pollster. This is Joe, my friend, and I talking about this. This is. It's just hard to go about your day.
Dan, it's very hard. As a former educator, former school administrator, parent, grandparent, you know, my heart just breaks for these parents, what they have to deal with. How do they deal with the situation? And the question is, what's the solution? That's what nobody has at this point. How do you stop this type of violence from going on? I mean, I just don't have an answer. You could have security, you could have resource officers.
So what would you do? What would you do if you had to poll this region, the country? And of course, you know, depending on where you are, the data comes back differently.
Very differently, depending, and it also depends when you poll it. If you poll it today, you're going to get a very different answer than you would have gotten 3 or 4 days ago because of the shooting. But again, it depends on how you ask the questions. You know, if you ask ban guns totally, you might get one answer. If you say ban certain types of weapons, you're going to get a different answer from the population. People may want some limits on the guns. You know, maybe they want some limits on assault rifles and things like that. Some people don't, but you got a lot of people who do. Total ban on guns, I would say maybe not. You know, but again, as these shootings keep occurring, more and more people are getting more concerned about the children.
Yeah, well, and you know, you got Buffalo last week,
right?
And this week. There's something about our precious cargo that just stops us.
Yes.
And there's additional issues like security for the local schools, and what are we doing? And there was an armed officer available at that school, and still, based on the way this kid loaded up, I guess, with his equipment and the like, he was more difficult to get at, so to speak. But it's interesting, Joe. I don't know if you've ever polled security issues in Rhode Island. One of the things that really concerns me, and again, you know, Joe's not an expert in this. He's a former educator though, and he has a pulse on what the pulse could be. I've always been very concerned that we've invested in resource officers on both a middle and high school basis, but we've never done it for elementary school, and we just don't have we allegedly don't have the resources for it.
Yeah,
What do you think the polling data would show now, today, this week, about whether we think security ought to be enhanced in our elementary schools?
I would think people would feel that they should be, because a lot of these shootings seem to be at elementary schools. And that's where you get mass killings, unfortunately.
Right, well, Sandy Hook is an elementary
Right.
school. This school in Texas is an elementary
Right.
school.
And the thing is, you could have a resource officer, but he could be on one end of the building when the incident happens at the other end. By the time he gets there, there could be a lot of fatalities at that point. The big thing is trying to secure the school so people can't get into the school easily. You know, you don't want people just walking out the door, leaving it open so someone can just sneak right in with a loaded gun. You've got to have a real secure school, and it's difficult because people are going in and out of school buildings all day. So security is a big thing. I know when I was an administrator, we used to do a lot of lockdown drills, and we put it upon the children, take it very seriously, because you never know what's going to happen. And I'm glad to say at the school I was at back then, the kids did take it very seriously, and it worked out very well.
Yeah, it's a fine line, right, between creating an environment of fright for students,
Exactly.
versus having a practice, especially the little ones.
They expect school to be a safe place, and they enjoy going to school.
I don't know. This is one of those things where a pollster would have to feed the questions, which is what the options to the answers, right? You always ask a question with options to choose from. If you had an open-ended conversation, what would we do? What should we do? And do you often do that on a polling basis? Ask questions?
I don't usually do too many open-ended questions. Usually we give them a series of choices.
Because they're not data trackable as easily?
No, you could do them. It just takes more time and makes the surveys longer. People are limited on their resources for the amount of money they want to spend on a survey. You know, shorter polls, we don't do that. Longer polls, you can't do that. But you have to record all the data.
One of the things that I noticed last night as I was watching the cable news back and forth, and your data shows it all the time, the polarization of this country is absolutely unbelievable. You know, I'm watching the president speak, and you know, we're freelancing here a little bit. I didn't pull any of the video on this, but you know, he talked about. And he asked, for God's sake, you know, when are we going to step on gun laws? And his remarks were met with appreciation, empathy, commiseration on CNN and MSNBC. I turn over to Fox, and they are excoriating him for making this political. That the idea that he's venting and frustrating over assault weapons ban laws that have expired with former President Bush, and reportedly the data shows that there's a tripling of violence since they're back on the street. I'm sure your polling data shows this incredible. I mean, it is unbelievable, the prisms and the expectations. And I even think on that side, meaning this side of the camera, there are people who are play acting on both sides to feed what they think the beast wants.
Right. There's no question, Dan, polling shows the people in this country are very divided. And the problem is being divided is one thing, but they're really set in their ways where they're divided. They don't even want to compromise. And that's what we need. We need Democrats, Republicans to start compromising on issues. If they do that, we could get some movement on all these different issues. But if the Republicans are in charge, the Democrats don't want to compromise. If the Democrats are in charge, the Republicans don't want to compromise. Somebody has to start working together. Otherwise, this is going to get worse, not better, I believe.
Yeah, and I don't know. The art of compromise is interesting here, because if everybody was momentarily hypnotized to get rid of their self-identity, their self-brand, their ideology, their party affiliation, their perceived constituency perspective and loyalty, and they just came to a table like you and I are, and said, okay, here's the dilemma, what to do. We might get some function, but everybody comes not being able to lay their, I mean, all pun intended, their arms down. They're not able to lay down their political agendas, their political ideologies. They're just not able to do it. And by the way, that's been historic. I mean, that's not new. But don't you think, and you've got a pulse on everybody, Don't you think it's hyperbolic at this point?
Yeah, it's gone to the extremes. I remember years ago, you know, Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, they used to not get along at all in the politics, but at night Tip O'Neill would go to the White House, have a drink with Ronald Reagan, and they would talk and work things out. And that's what we're not seeing.
People scoff at that. That matters.
It does. It matters greatly. And I think a lot of the Democrats and Republicans, they're probably friends with each other in the House and Senate. The problem is, you know, the leadership's saying you got to stick together. You can't deviate from what we're doing in order to do things. We want to get control next year, so we have to stick with our guns. And when the Democrats are out of power, they're saying the same thing. So they just going to the extreme right now. And at some point, I'm hoping it breaks and there's some type of compromise.
All right. I appreciate your thoughts on this. This is a hard time for this country. When we come back, we'll dig into the data on the poll from last week. Promise. See you. All right. So here's a summary of the meat of the numbers.
In our first survey of the 2022 campaign season, the 12 News Roger Williams University poll shows the Democratic primary for governor is up for grabs.
Tim, there's no question this race is wide open. You got 37% undecided. So there's a lot of people that are looking for somebody to vote for.
12 News political analyst and pollster Joe Fleming says Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea is doing slightly better with voters who say they are very likely to cast a vote in the September 13th primary.
So right now, both of these results are within the margin of error. Both of them are basically the front runner at this point in the election for governor, with everyone else trailing.
Fleming sees a cause for concern for incumbent Governor Dan McKee, his job approval numbers with likely Democratic primary voters. 45% say McKee is doing an excellent or good job, and 44% think he is doing a just fair or poor job. The poll comes with a 4.9% margin of error.
If I'm the governor, these are not the numbers I want to see going into the primary season.
Fleming points out McKee's job approval is below President Biden's among Democratic primary voters in Rhode Island. 60% say Biden is doing an excellent or good job, 37% just fair or poor.
All right, so we'll get to the national scene. There are two key races here, obviously the governor's race and the 2nd congressional district race. In my time here, I don't remember as pronounced an undecided number as we have had. I'm sure you can draw on other undecided numbers that were pretty significant, but these are pretty high.
These are very high, Dan. I think what's happening here is when we did the survey, none of the candidates for governor had gone on with paid media yet. So the voters were not...
Including the incumbent governor.
Including the incumbent governor. I think people at this time were more concerned with gas, buying groceries, a little bit with COVID, nice weather going outside. They're not focused on the governor's race at all. And I think the poll we have shows that people have not focused in on the governor's race. They don't know much about some of these candidates. You know, Dan McKee is the governor, but they don't know a real big background. He was lieutenant governor for many years, but it's a very low office in the sense of visibility.
Sure.
And even Secretary of State Gorbea. I mean, the other candidates are not that well known at all. So that's why your undecided is high. I think it's going to change, obviously, over the next few months. I think I remember in 2014 when Gina Raimondo first ran, there was that big primary. I think in May, our survey had about 20% undecided. So almost half of them was undecided, but the campaign had heated up already. So the big thing is it's been a very quiet election here in Rhode Island. The candidates are working to raise money, build organizations, but they haven't really made a lot of major voter contact yet.
Yeah, you expressed in the package with Tim your concern for the incumbent governor.
Right.
But given, and again, full disclosure, I consider the governor a friend. I'd like to see him elected. The undecided numbers are fertile for him as well.
Well, yes and no. Keep in mind, he's been out, the governor, for more than a year. He's on TV almost every night. People can get an opinion of him over that time. And they're not saying, yes, I'm voting for Dan McKee as governor. They're saying, I'm voting for somebody else, or I'm undecided on the race.
You think his favorability rating is low enough to be problematic?
It's his job rating we gave, not his favorability.
Those are different? Job
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely different. Favorability is, do I like you? Well, yeah, I may like you as a person. Do I like the job you're doing? Maybe not. If I remember when we did Gina's last time when she ran, her favorability and job rating was about a 10 or 15 point difference. Some people may like you, but they don't like the job. Other people love the job you're doing, but they're not too thrilled about you as a person. You know, an example could be Donald Trump. People may not like his personality, but they like the job he did as president.
Gotcha.
So that's the type of difference.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, you know, how the governor steps up. I know that he sees this as a bifurcated season. He believes that governing is governing and campaigning is campaigning, and he's about to turn that, you know, and I think well, there's no doubt he begrudgingly participated in that RIPEC gubernatorial forum 2 weeks ago, and you know he'll have to be off and running. But one of the interesting things is that Helena Foulkes, which seems to be the media curiosity.
Right.
I've never seen so much curiosity over somebody who polls at 6%. But she's got $1 million looming.
That's why.
As a former CVS executive, and I could smoke him if you got him, right? If you've got that kind of money to blow, I don't know how you carve out from that 37% undecided and whittle the others to a place where you got to settle in about what 35, 36% to win this primary.
That's what it should be, probably.
That's a long road to hoe.
It's a long road, but I'm assuming what they're hoping is simply that the support for the two front runners is probably a little soft. They're hoping that with a strong media campaign, the voters will get to know her and what she stands for, and they may want to see some type of change. That remains to be seen. We're going to see how much people pay attention over the next few months, or she may go nowhere.
Am I making a mistake in suggesting that the McKee campaign hopes that Foulkes stays in?
I would think so. I would hope I would have to guess now that the McKee campaign's hoping that Helena Foulkes draws votes from the Secretary of State, takes votes away from her. But again, you never know what's going to happen. Again, I look at this poll as a starting point. Here's where the candidates are starting. Now let's get the campaign going full steam, and let's see what happens.
Real quick, let's talk about the congressional race for a second. I know that we've got some data, Matt. If you can throw me the second district numbers there at your leisure, that would be awesome. Thanks so much. Seth Magaziner at 33%. The others, David Siegel, Joey Fox, and Sarah Morgenthau. Morgenthau is doing some paid media now. Joey hasn't started yet, and then nice guys here, but Omar Ba does great work in the refugee community, but holy cow. But half of the electorate is like this, right?
Besides Seth Magaziner, none of these people are known to the voters. If we polled, these people, do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion, the people who say don't know is going to be like 80, 90%, because they're not household names at all. And Seth Magaziner is the name that's known. He's run statewide twice. He's a general treasurer. So I think that's why his numbers are up so high. Again, we don't know if it's a strong support or weak support. We didn't poll that. Because sometimes we'll ask voters, are you solid with this person, or is there a chance you could change your mind as the election season goes on? And we didn't ask that question. But I think this result doesn't surprise me at all, because he's the best known of all the candidates, and the other candidates have very low name recognition.
Current state treasurer, of course. I would think that it's soft.
Again,
it's softer than harder. In other words,
well, I think he's picked up a lot of union support. He seems to have a lot of the established Democratic base behind him, so that's going to help him. So I mean, it may be soft, but we don't know how soft.
Well, what's going to be interesting is, look, you'd be nuts to bet against him in this primary.
At this point, yes, but again, we've seen people come out of nowhere.
But Alan Fung provides a different challenge in the general election.
Absolutely. The 2nd Congressional District is less Democratic than the 1st Congressional District. Alan Fung represented as mayor of the largest city in the 2nd Congressional District. He's run statewide twice for governor. He did fairly well in the 2nd Congressional District in his last run, especially if you take Providence out of it. So he's going to be a formidable challenge. And I would think the Republicans feel that way, and they feel there's a seat they thought they had no chance to have a race in, where now they may look at it and it might be worth them investing money.
Well, each of them have their challenges,
yes.
No doubt. And, relationship to Trump is going to be something he's going to have to clarify, seems to me, one way or the other. Whatever he says, he's got to be firm about it. And so far, he hasn't figured out how to do that.
No.
Which I'm very surprised about. I mean, you get into the race and you don't have that answer yet. I'm not sure. All right, we're going to take a look at the general impression that people have about how things are going and the president's numbers when we come back, Stevens. Yeah, housing, a very serious problem. Now, again, remember, this poll was done a few weeks ago, and what we're dealing with this week, obviously, and this Texas shooting and security issues and all that kind of stuff would be way up, and you would be committing malpractice if you were getting a pulse of the community today and didn't include security and gun issues in there. So, as you always tell me, What is it? A poll
Snapshot.
is a snapshot of the time that you were in at that particular point. But there's no doubt that this housing thing has gripped people, not just in terms of the affordable housing and the socioeconomic issues challenging those who don't make a lot of dough, and everybody's challenged with housing. Whether you want to upgrade, whether you want to rent for the first time as a a working young person, the whole thing is crazy.
No question.
Right now.
That's why we found 91% of the Democratic primary voters said it's a very serious or somewhat serious issue. Again, we're only talking about primary voters, no Republicans, no people who say they're not going to vote in primaries. So this is a small part of the population, but right now this stands out. And with all the subgroups, the lowest one's 89%. So everybody thinks this is a very serious issue at this time.
Here's the thing: is it marketable in a campaign?
I'm not sure.
Because I've never, I just don't think there's any sizzle behind that stake. Yet the stake seems to be really important to people. But is it when it comes to making a decision on candidates?
I'm not sure if you mean will people vote based on this one issue?
Yes.
I would tend to doubt it. I think there's more issues that would probably make people, they might say this is an important issue, but are they going to decide who they're voting for governor on this one issue? I would personally think probably not. But again, you could poll the question.
Here's the thing that's really interesting. Joe Biden seems to do well here in terms of at least how people feel about him.
His job rating, yes, 60. Well, again, not as well as you think. It's only 60% of Democratic primary voters who gave him an excellent or good job rating.
Usually that number is up in the 80s and 90s.
High 70s, low 80s you want to see. So to me, that's lower. That number should be a lot higher. And I think it's the problems that he's having nationally that's bringing that number down. Well, on the surface, it looks like a good number. But if you know the numbers, Democrats want to be up in the 70 or 80% range with this number. These are your loyal voters. And only 60% of them are saying you're doing an excellent or good job.
All right. Next poll season comes when?
Sure, we'll be doing another one before the primary for WPRI TV and Roger Williams University. The exact date, I don't know yet.
Well, I think your poll is the official start to the campaign season. So,
we're off and running now, and hopefully there'll be other polls out, and we'll keep a close eye on what's going on.
Joe, thanks. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, final word and we can back. Stay with us. Remember, polls are just a snapshot in time. And, I keep reminding myself of that in my work and in my life because look at the week that we've been dealing with now, right? Our mindsets change, no doubt about it. In terms of security and all those kinds of things, and just where we're leading in law enforcement. Next week, the new colonel of the state police will join us. We'll talk to you weekdays 3 to 6 on WPRI. Thanks for joining us. Good night.